Hey, what's up? Johnny here. I thought I'd talk to you about a little bit of my PS5 games collection and PS4. So this is going to be actually just the games that I have here where my TV is. I have a shelf back in my bedroom, which I'll show you some other day, where I have the rest of my collection. These are just the games that I have like handy. So I thought, you know what, let's take a look at what I have here, and we'll decide whether maybe we'll move some stuff to the long-term shelf, and I'll talk to you about the games that I have here as well. So in no particular order, this is just the games that I have. We'll start off with the Uncharted Collection. You know, I thought they did a good job renewing some of the older games, but they're still pretty dated, right? So Drake's Fortune, the first one, is a little rough to play nowadays, IMO. It was really the foundation of the genre, and how they, the cover shooting feels very formulaic and stuff. It was still a great game back in the day, but I find myself, very unlikely to return to it, just being very honest, which is kind of a theme with me. I don't really return to games that much. It takes a very special game like some of the Souls to come back to them. And then next up, I have this edition of the Death Stranding game, which I actually loved. It was maybe my top game of the year when it comes to like single player stuff. The story beats didn't really hit with me as much as with other people, but still, like, it's not even Zen, but the connection I felt with the game of like exploring, traversing the terrain, enjoying some of the music when it pops in, the rain. Really, that was the best part of the game for me. The story, not as much. I didn't really enjoy it that much, but just the exploration of it and how you can make something really enjoyable with elements that really seem quite dull, which is like, hurling parcels around the land. It's a shame that you don't have a lot of NPC interaction beyond just the holograms and the cutscenes. I do wish that you would just talk to a human being sometimes instead of looking at a hologram. It always looks shitty, the sound is shit, right? But I kind of get they were trying to build that feeling of loneliness and that you're out there on your own. But you weren't. There were many people in those buildings that you deliver stuff to. So I didn't like that aspect as much. But here's the next one, Devil May Cry 5. And this is a game that I actually won in a giveaway in a friend's channel. So shout out to Sky Days. If you're listening to this, cheers, man. I appreciate that. And I played this quite a bit on the Xbox One. I also picked it up on PC, where I played more of it, just because it runs better, to be honest. But a great game. Really, I think the best iteration of the games in the series that I've played. I've only played 2 or 3 of the older ones. Never really finished any of them. It's just really not my, what would you say, not really my cup of tea. But I really enjoy what I played of this one. They kind of modernized the combat, and for me it felt a lot better. It still feels a little bit clumsy, and I think largely it's my fault, because I don't really know how to utilize the combos to close the gap and stuff. It doesn't feel as intuitive as some of the Souls games or other combat games that I like. But a really cool game. And next up, this is a really cool one. So I have a steel box edition of Sekiro. I've never known how to pronounce it. You guys will tell me somewhere in the comments or something. But I love getting a steel box at times if I know I'm gonna have some respect for the game, even if I don't like the actual game. Some respect for the developers and stuff. I like to chill out a little bit and get a steel box, because it just looks so pretty, so nice to have. And it looks like I have a different thing in here. I have the Venom Blu-ray, which that's a whole other can of worms. Don't ask me why I got that. I love Venom, the character, and I was really excited for the movie. It didn't pan out that much, but we'll get to that later. Sekiro, love the setting, love the work they did, the production. Don't like the gameplay nearly as much as any other Souls game that I've played. Really, I would rather play Dark Souls 2 than play Sekiro. Although maybe now that I beat Sekiro, I wouldn't mind returning to it and maybe enjoying it a bit more. But the first playthrough was quite painful because they need you to do the parries. That's the only playstyle that's viable, and I really like more of a variety of playstyles. Next up we have SpiderMan. Really one of the best movement systems in a game. IMO, the swinging, incredible, amazing, right? I'm trying to think of other games that nailed this. Ghost of Tsushima, of course, is another great example of this, where just the traversal is satisfying. We talked about that. Stranding, traversal is satisfying. For me, that's a big thing in a game. Does it feel good to explore your world? And they nailed it in this one. Next up, this is kind of a weird one, but I have a Blu-ray of The Greatest Showman. I love the music in this. It's cheesy, but it's very nice music. I found myself listening to the music outside of the movie after watching it. I think this was a gift, actually. I forget exactly who gifted it to me, so apologies. But I really enjoyed, and it's one of those. I listened to a lot of instrumental covers of the music of this as well. And I did some karaoke of it with my friend Rejaku, so cheers to him. And then we got Detroit Become Human. I think one of the greatest examples of how to make like a narrative-based game, where the gameplay is quite subdued, quite minimal, but it's still like a super compelling game to play. They managed to squeeze every bit of graphical fidelity out of the system. It's incredible how good this looks even on the base PS4. And one of those games where you don't need 60 FPS. And in fact, I kind of want them to leave that option open. I know I love 60 FPS in games, but some games don't really need it. And you can really use that extra bitrate for other stuff. To just, get a sharper image, better depth of field, all that kind of stuff that we know and love. And they did a great job with this one. And then this is, of course, a classic, the Bloodborne Game of the Year edition. I mean, this is really just one of the top games for me ever, right? I do prefer Dark Souls 3 over this because I prefer the medieval setting. But this is incredible. The only shame is that it doesn't run that well. Never has, and still doesn't. But there are rumors of like a PS5 re-release or remaking, right? Whatever. So I'll be all over that when it happens. But one of the greats. Speaking of one of the greats, Ghost of Tsushima, instantly a classic for me. This game is incredible. They innovate a lot, and the places where they don't innovate, they at least nail it. So, you would say the combat is very derivative of other games. So you can mix up some Souls with, Neo and some other games in the genre, with making it a bit more accessible by adding extra things like bombs, throwables, that give you more options in combat. So, if the combat is a bit challenging for you, just relying on the parries, for example, you can use bombs, you can use all kinds of other stuff, just giving you options, which I love. The HUD is minimal, very clean, looks great, and they have you find places by the wind showing you, right? So the wind blows in the direction of your current objective, which then eliminates the need for big HUDs or markers and things like that. Great system, and just great game. And the DLC coming out soon. It's going to be great. All right, next up. One of my all-time favorite things that I've ever played, the Final Fantasy VII Remake. This was my first RPG game ever, the original, right back in the 90s, whenever that was, or 2000s, I don't know. And needless to say, it stuck with me, right? It stuck with me in a big way. It's a big part of who I am as a gamer. I compared that story to and those characters to a lot of other RPGs, and to have it remade like this, with this graphical fidelity, fleshing out characters, preserving the original narrative to a great extent, elevating it in many ways, in my opinion, adding some extra flair to it, some extra things that we still don't know exactly how are gonna pan out. Very cool. The music in this is so good, right? The music in the original is just a bang. It's just like so good. But the reorchestrations for this game, for me, are just incredible. And there's also a new theme that they created for this game that now escapes me. The name always escapes me, actually, but it plays when you're in Aerith's village, or Aerith. I never know how to pronounce her name correctly in English, I apologize. When you're in her village, there's a beautiful theme that plays there. That's new, as well as many other reorchestrations. But I digress. Next up, Miles. Miles is a game where I wasn't sure if the value was gonna be there, because you pay for like a new disc, let's say, and is it a DLC? Is it an expansion? It wasn't super clear when I picked this up. It turned out to be something like a 10-hour adventure with Miles. New powers that build on top of the old ones in a surprisingly satisfying way. You tend to think that, when you already have a satisfying game with its set of systems, if you just add more systems on top, it's going to be too much, right? It's going to be overbearing. This is a case where it just worked out. And it just feels like a better version of the gameplay of the original, and not too much. So they did a great job just keeping the strengths that made the original really good, and building on top of it with a cool and different story as well. And then finally, this is gonna be the last one. You ready? This is Demon's Souls, the remake. And what a bang out job they did with this. I mean, the original Demon's Souls was the first Souls game I ever played. It kicked my ass in incredible ways. I mean, I was just terrified playing that thing originally. I think it was on the PS3 where I played it originally. I had no idea what I was in for. And like, even the first areas, I was like feeling dread around every corner. So no game ever inflicted that level of dread on me since then. And playing the remake was a nice way to relive that. They've preserved a lot of the magic of the original, really most of it, and modernized it so new people can jump in and enjoy it. They've done a great job with visuals, in my opinion. For example, for people who know the game, there's a scenario where there are flying manta rays, and the boss is a giant manta ray that throws like lightning spears at you. The visuals and the soundscape for that are incredible. It's gonna remain seared into my memory. One of the like most visually impressive boss reimagining, not reimagining, but just visually from the visual perspective. Really good job. And that's about it. Those are the games that I have here by my PS4. Some other time I'll show you my older games that I have by my shelf. And I'll have to kind of sort these out, maybe put some back in the shelf to open up more space here. But that's about it. Thanks for sticking with me through this rant. If you enjoyed this type of more like vlog style, a bit less professional, more laid back, let me know down below. Still experimenting with stuff and see what people enjoy to watch and to hear from me. So any thoughts are welcome. And with that, have a great weekend. We'll see you on the next one.